Nanyuki. On the 24th day of November 1920, Nanyuki was gazetted as a township under the East African Township Ordinance of 1903 by the governor of the Colony of Kenya and East African Protectorate, Edward Northey. Before then, Nanyuki was generally known as North Nyeri. The history of Nanyuki goes back to pre-colonial days. Nanyuki is part of the Laikipia Plateau, which stretches from the slopes of the snow-capped Mount Kenya. The area was inhabited by the Maasai, a nomadic pastoralist peoples, as part of their vast swathe of land stretching all way south into northern Tanzania. The name Nanyuki is derived from the Maasai phrase Enkare Nanyuki, which means river of blood. During the rainy season, Nanyuki River would turn a red color as a result of red soil being washed down from the slopes of Mount Kenya, hence the phrase. The Maasai did not have a land tenure system in the Western sense of the term. In the mind of the Maasai, land was not defined by linear boundaries or individual ownership, but by the cattle upon 1,000 hills. The Maasai are pastoralists, moving their cattle, sheep, and goats to give the land a chance to regenerate and to find fresh water. It is no coincidence that the Maasai were present at all the water towers in Kenya, namely Mount Kenya, the Aberdares, Mau, Cherangani, and Mount Elgon. They practiced a rather large version of paddocking, and there was a natural balance of the elements, including coexisting with wild animals. In a calculated move designed to alienate land from the indigenous peoples, the British demonized their culture and land use practices. Sir Eliot, the Commissioner for British East Africa, wrote in 1902, "I have no desire to protect Maasaidom. It is a beastly, bloody system, founded on raiding and immorality, disastrous to both Maasai and their neighbors. The sooner it disappears and is unknown, except in the books of anthropology, the better." Eliot, like Cecil Rhodes, was a strong proponent of the divine calling of the European to pacify the African and create a noble savage out of the native. He believed that the Maasai were so diabolical that they were irredeemable, and the only solution was to dispatch them to the land of Lucifer. The first British immigrants settled in Nanyuki around 1907 during the early days of colonial Kenya. George Murray of Morania Farm and Gordon Murray of Lolomarik Farm were amongst the first families to settle in the area. Many other settlers came to Nanyuki on shooting safaris to hunt wildlife for pleasure and sale of trophies. President Theodore Roosevelt staged part of his famous Smithsonian Roosevelt Safari from Nanyuki in 1909. In 1910, J. Murray was commissioned by the government to survey the area for European settlement on land previously sparsely occupied by the Losho-Lo-Laikipia subclan of the Maasai. Pace, Nat Berry, and Vaughan Kaneali all arrived that year, but the remoteness of the area made settlement difficult. Other families who arrived before the 1914-18 war included Old Randall and his large family from South Africa, William Segar Bastard, Ted Agate. The Agates had previously been in Lemek area of Narok and were thus linked to the direct exchange of land. Lex Smith, George Webb, Raymond Hook, on whose land Nanyuki Cottage Hospital was eventually built. Alec Anstey, Pat Keneally, Major Lionel Gascoigne, who opened the first shop known as Nanyuki Cash Store in 1914, and General Wheatley, who is credited with building the Nanyuki racecourse. Not much activity took place during World War I since many settlers were involved in the war effort. However, in 1919, the British government introduced the Soldier Settlement Scheme designed to settle European ex-soldiers on land as part of reconstruction after the war undertaken for reasons of economic growth, social stability, and to repay the debt of honor owed to ex-servicemen. In Kenya, the scheme was initially envisaged as a means of strengthening the local white community in the face of an African population, which had lost its awe of Europeans as a result of exposure to the outside world, during which they saw white men dying like any other men, including themselves. However, it quickly became an attempt to both promote economic development by new settlement and to care for potential poor whites within Kenya. In addition to the enlightenment of the African, the fact that the Africanic soldier was left out of the schema further fomented the rise of African nationalism. Laikipia was earmarked to contribute the largest land area, at 950,000 acres, to the Soldier Settlement Scheme. This report is compiled by DG aka Ustad, Director of Backlash Kenya. It's facilitated by one of the best hotels in the region, Hotel Taji, Nanyuki, opposite Nanyuki Railway Station and adjacent to Nanyuki Gospel Outreach. Special thanks to Appville Limited Nanyuki, the reliable internet provider within Nanyuki and its environment. We also thanks Ngumo Moffat of Mum's Cafe, opposite Nanyuki bus station, for great ideas on our programs. Nanyuki, a home for all.